The prepared mind did something with it. The unprepared mind looks back and says, I wish I'd done it.
Got to experience the lowest of the low of the boring years, or whatever you want to call it, the learning years, to get to success, right?
If you want to go somewhere or get somewhere, it is best to do it with somebody alongside you who has done it.
It wasn't until we made that complete shift from business coach to industry experts that it honestly has transformed our business. What is exciting about this week is these bad boys right here.
Yeah. Can you see them? Look what it says here. Look, just look at them there. Eh?
So we've we've really splashed the boat out, whatever the saying is, and we've bought ourselves some covers.
Covers, yeah.
So
Coupon 50.
But no, it's been a good week. Lots going on. Great to end the week right here, right now. So yeah, had a couple of big wins this week as well, which is good.
Congratulations.
But as we were just saying, congratulations. Now on to the next one.
Correct. Yeah. Just move on from it. Yeah, that's good. But be thankful.
Yeah.
For what.
But how's your week been?
It's been really good. Challenging, very challenging, but I wouldn't have it any otherwise. You know, it's been absolutely perfect.
So on today's episode then, Mike, we're going to look at what success stories leave out. And I think that's quite an interesting topic, because often in business and life, you hear the success stories, but you kind of don't get what's been left out, and the mistakes, the challenges, the risks that go into that success. It's all well and good once you get there, but it doesn't happen for free, right? So I guess what we were going to really kind of touch upon today is really what's the best piece of advice you've ever followed that turned out to be completely wrong, which sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? But often, we're given advice along the way. We learn, we read books, we're constantly taking risks, taking challenges. What would you say is one of the biggest pieces of advice that you've been given that you adopted in the business, or even in your personal life, that then perhaps was completely wrong for you?
I think I have the answer to that.
Go on.
Or
It'd be
at
interesting,
least-
because I've got an answer for that, and it'd be interesting to see how they compare.
The biggest piece of advice that I took from somebody that turned out to be very, very wrong was when I took advice from people who had never done what I asked them to advise me upon. So, for example, when I first invested in property, instead of talking to somebody who was in it, instead of talking to somebody who had done it for many years, I went to one of my cousins. And you don't want to know what the results of that were.
So was that naivety on your point?
It was outright stupidity on my point.
So why did you do that?
Because I didn't know any better, didn't think any better, and I didn't invest in myself to make my thoughts any better at the time. I would like to really say something which I'm very, very passionate about, that if you want to go somewhere or get somewhere, it is best to do it with somebody alongside you who has done it. Whatever it is you want to learn about in life, if it's rockets, speak to somebody who deals with rockets. Don't come and talk to me. If it's property, speak to somebody who invests in property. If it's podcasts, what did you and I do when we spoke about this podcast? Where did we go?
Taylor.
Why did we go to Taylor?
Because he's the best.
Exactly. We didn't do what we used to do and started by ourselves and or go and ask somebody down the road or a family member, because they've never done it. This time around, we acted properly. We went to the best guy, and he's been whipping us ever since.
It's interesting because defining the word success, I struggle with, because I don't think by any stretch of the imagination I or we are a success. We've got a long way to go, but we're a hell of a lot.
It's always a long way to go. Success, we've said this, it's not a place where you just get to and stop there.
We're a hell of a lot further forward now than we were 12 months ago. So if
that
define
is
that as
success.
success,
That
then,
is success, yes.
then that is success. But I think the point that you just made is really important, because, without going into too much detail, we've transformed as a business in 12 months. Completely, it's incredible what I think we've done. But the reason, and the biggest reason of that change, is exactly what you just said. We put we brought people into the business that were experts in the direction that we were heading in. So, you know, with the software side, you know, we developed our software capability and processes and things like that. What did we do? We bring someone that had developed and previously built a hugely successful software development company.
You learn from them.
Yeah, someone that imparts wisdom, knowledge, you know.
Who's done it?
That's done it.
Someone who has done
and
it.
all of the problems you're about to face, they face them.
Yeah.
So A, it doesn't stop them from happening, but they know how to deal with them. But B, they prevent a lot of things happening because they've already been there, seen that, done that. And I think going back to the point of the episode, what success stories leave out and advice that you'd be given, I think one of our biggest, we prior to having industry experts now that we bring into the business, whether they're non-exec directors or you know, employed, whatever it is, previously we just had business coaches that were, I guess, were general business coaches. They weren't necessarily specialists in our industry, but, you know, I guess generalized business coaches that work with multiple sectors. And I think we took a lot of advice from that world, which was probably our downfall for a period. And it wasn't until we made that complete shift from business coach to industry experts that it honestly has transformed our business. Not only are we a better business, we're a bigger business, and that's been a
more focused business, more profitable.
Yeah, everything has changed for the better. You know, we're talking about we worked with business coaches for probably 5 or 6 years, and genuinely, we've grown in 12 months with industry experts more than we did in 5 years.
Yep. A business coach, it's ideal at the very beginning to show you a few basic things. But once you are in an industry, that business coach, unless they've done it, I'll go back to what I said before, unless they have done it themselves, they can't take you any further.
It's interesting because although I say it may come across that I'm speaking about this as a negative, I'm actually not. And the reason being is, if it wasn't for the business coach journey, that 4 or 5 years,
you would never have been here.
We would have never got to the position where we said, we need
Yep.
industry experts, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to make a change. So actually, I would just say it was part of our cycle.
It was the
It's
first
part of the
step.
journey.
It was the first block.
Thinking about it, looking back, I think we took a lot of advice, what we thought was great advice, but it actually pushed us into an area. Just a very simple example, it was all about growth, and service deliver. And, you know, we started as a branding, a web company. Then we started getting coaching, and all of a sudden we were a web company, a brand company, a marketing company, and all these like 6 or 7 different things. And I've talked about this in an episode before. And that was our biggest downfall, because actually, rather than focus on what we were actually really good at and passionate about, we diversified too much. We tried to be too many things to too many people, and that was the detriment of the business. You know, in the last 12 months, we've gone back to our roots, you know, of web, software, branding, you know, and now we just celebrate what we're good at and passionate about, and it's transformational.
And say no to the rest.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, and we were talking about that before this episode, weren't we? And you know, the hardest thing to do in business is say no, right? Because often, you know,
it's difficult. It's extremely
but actually,
difficult.
Now I think saying no is the most rewarding part of our business, and it gives you the most credibility as well.
And no is a sentence on its own.
Yeah.
No means no. Does not need justification or explanation. It means no. Going back to this, what do most success stories quietly remove from the narrative? I think what they remove is pretty much everything that's useful. And they all focus at where, when you get at the top, without talking about what it took to get there.
Yeah, and actually, the only way, I actually think the narrative of a success story is a load of bollocks. To me, the narrative is, you know, if success is Z, I want to know A to what's before Z.
I don't want to know the Z. I want to know the trip.
But
to
do you know what I
get
mean?
to Z.
Exactly, and that's
absolutely,
that's the only thing I want to hear about. I mean, yes, well done, you're successful. I don't care that you're successful now. What I want to know is how the bloody hell did you get there?
Yeah. How hard was it? What did you have to go through?
Yeah.
And as I've spoken to you about in the past, there are a group of successful people that I meet on a regular basis, if it's for a meal or for a walk at the park. And what we constantly talk about is not the actual success. It's about all the pain, all the pitfalls that they had to go through to get to that point.
Yeah.
And that is where you find the most amazing things in a human being, what they've had to go through. And when you hear that, you will think 5 times more or 5 times as many times before you get into business after you've heard that. Because when you get into the business, you're going to go through these things no matter what. It's nice, it's good to have your eyes focused at the very top, and you should have them there, but you've got to realize that at some point you have to go through everything to get to that point.
But that's that's why I love hearing success stories, right? And what I was saying earlier, it's not that I don't care about the success. It's more about I care how they got to the success. So I love success stories, but when I hear a success story, I don't want to know. I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to know what you're doing as a result of the success. I want to know
which is what most people do.
Hear.
Nice house,
cars,
cars, exactly, holidays, this and that.
To me, that's irrelevant. What I want to know is, forget that. How did you get to a point where you had that, or have that? And I think that's how, as business owners, you learn. And actually, there's nothing more. I do a lot of peer-to-peer networking, so and there's nothing more refreshing than sitting in a room with successful people, and you hear the roar, the agony, the
raw
pain,
truth, the pain.
And actually, you learn so much in that because
that's where the learning is. That is the valuable bit. That is the value. It's not how good does a piece of fish taste. It's what did you have to go through to catch the fish?
Yeah, and I do peer-to-peer networking, and I'm sitting around a table with CEOs that have businesses that are 10, 15, 20 times the size of mine, and at the very early days, I'm thinking I don't belong here. My business is way smaller than theirs. I don't belong in this room because I'm not as successful as those. But then at the same time, success is all relative, right? And actually, when you start speaking to those people, and I'll say, in our tiny little business over here, I'm really having this challenge right now. And then the next minute I know, the CEO of a multi-million pound company says, Lee, I had that exact same problem a few years ago. And to me, that is so refreshing. And sometimes you think these people that you put people on a really high pedestal, don't you?
That is what pulls you up.
Yeah.
That is what pulls you up. Taylor, what did we talk about a few minutes ago there when we were sitting together? When you're around these people, they put you into that emotional state where everything seems achievable.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing you can't do anymore. Yeah. Imagine spending your time mostly in that state of mind. Or you can spend the time, down at the pub having beer all the time. And what state of mind does that give you?
How different would expectations be if stories included the boring years? And that terminology, the boring years, is really interesting.
Nobody would read them. Nobody would listen to it. Nobody is going to sit there and listen for an hour non-stop about your or his difficulties. Nobody wants to do that. Because it is pain. Mm. It's all pain. So yes, people omit all the hard times when it comes to what success is all about or how to get to it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I certainly wouldn't define them as the boring years. I think it's just more the transformational years.
The building up years.
Yeah, the learning years.
The learning years.
But you've got to experience the lowest of the low of the boring years, or whatever you want to call it, the learning years, to get to success, right?
And I think this is another problem with people who are born into success. They miss these learning years. And that's why they say first generation builds, second one barely holds it there, and the third one destroys it. Because the third one has no idea how hard it was to build it in the first place.
Yeah. I think if you surround yourselves with people that talk about whatever we define those boring years, learning years, transformational years, if you surround yourself with those people compared to if you transform yourself with the people that just talk about the post success, this person is going to 10x how quickly it takes to get to the top.
Correct. I have something very interesting I'd like to add here. I've told you about meeting successful people and talking to them, getting to know them. I've seen a big difference in how they talk to you between those who have done it and those who have inherited it. Those who have inherited the actual wealth or success or whatever has been given to them, they treat it almost as lucky, or they feel as if they're actually deserving of it, although they've never done much about it. Whereas when you talk to those who have gone through the trenches to build it, the way they talk, the way they explain things to you, even the way they treat you is very, very different. Actually, it's very, very sad, because when you talk to those who have inherited it, the answers they give you when it comes to success are very, very different and quite misleading. Like, we were lucky. My dad was just smart. We were at the right time, right place, right time. Whereas none of these are actually, okay, they all help in reality, but mostly it's hard work, perseverance, and constant desire to have it.
But how much do you think success, obviously you talk about all the challenges that you have along the way, and
We're going to call them the building years.
the
from
building,
now on, yeah.
the building
The
years.
painful building years.
What do you think? Often, there's lots of challenges and things like that. In business, there are a lot of things that come to just a bit of luck, good timing, kind of what you just said there.
They do help when you are prepared.
Yeah, but trade-offs, all these things, there is an element of that, right time, right place.
There is. It does help. For example, to have been, for example, what Bill Gates and these people have managed to achieve, they were at the right place at the right time. You would have never been able to do that from a different country, for example, because you never had access to what they had. And that is part of it. It really helps to be at the right place at the right time. But the right place and the right time and luck always favor a prepared mind.
It's really interesting, that is.
I look back into my life and I've come across luck and favorable times so much, and I was completely blind to see any of it because I was not prepared to see it. Every time we talk about when you said, wow, if I could go back 15 years ago, I'd do this, I'd do that. That's what a prepared mind is. A prepared mind knows, grabs it, and waits 15 years for it to bear fruits. Whereas us, we look back and say, I wish I'd done that 15 years ago. Well, that 15 years ago was there for you and me, exactly the same. The prepared mind did something with it. The unprepared mind looks back and says, I wish I'd done it.
Talking about the building years, the challenges, the trials, the tribulations, do you think that would make fewer people want to start businesses? Do you think it'd prevent people from going down that route because, wait a minute, if I've got to experience 5 years of that before success, is it worth it?
If people focused on the hard times, fewer people would start businesses, because most of them just start and disappear and they just end up wrecking everything around them. Fewer people would start businesses, and those fewer who start have got a greater likelihood of succeeding. I think everybody would be better off.
So
by a mile.
It'd be a smaller pool.
A smaller pool,
but a more successful pool.
A more successful pool, yes. Here's a question for you. What part of success do we never celebrate that we should actually celebrate rather than ignore it?
For me, probably the biggest thing that I'm guilty of is that you're always kind of looking around the corner. So for me, like, I'd always say success for me is when we do X. That could be a tangible result, whether it's revenue, profit, people. There's always. But the thing that my wife always tells me is, you get to that point, and then all of a sudden that success target has changed,
has moved further up.
And I think that just naturally happens all the time. So I think what I'm guilty of, and something that I think you should celebrate, is all those little wins along the way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're so focused on the end result that you don't celebrate the successes of all the 100 things that it took to get to that one thing. So I think for me, that's probably the success that we don't celebrate and should, personally.
Do you ever sit back and look at the last year and compare it to this year and say, I've achieved what I was supposed to achieve, and I'm very grateful of it?
I guess I do, yeah. But I guess that's the challenge, right? That's exactly what I'm saying. We're now sitting here, and I'm now saying, Jesus, we're a completely different beast to where we were. But what I've not done once throughout the year is recognise that.
Yeah, or be thankful for it.
Every month this year has been a success to get to what I am now defining as success. But I haven't celebrated any of those months. And I guess that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like you're always striving towards that end goal, and often just miss the really amazing things that happen.
The journey.
Yeah. And so often we don't celebrate the journey.
I'm very, very guilty of that, big time. And the only person who pointed that out to me was a few friends, and mainly my wife, when she sat me down and she said, do you realize how far we've come in the past year, what we have done? And when I looked back, it put a smile on my face. And then it dawned on me, and I was thinking, why didn't I feel like this along the way? Why did I have to wait a whole year to smile about what I've achieved?
How did you do that?
Why did I delay it for so long?
Yeah. Maybe you have to put tangible. Maybe when
targets,
when we plan in the future, if we say, right, where do I want to be December next year, and then maybe put some mini targets. Because what we're also bad at is, one thing me and Jason used to do in the early days is we used to kind of set targets, and we'd give ourselves rewards if we hit those targets, and those rewards are a form of celebration, right?
Yeah.
And we'd give little kind of rewards along the way. So if you hit this target on this, and they were often granular. They were quite granular compared to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I think as we've grown, we've just lost that. I guess it's an easy mentality when there's only a few of you, right? And as you grow, it becomes a big...
No, it's like reach, move on, reach, move on, reach, move on.
But I guess it is about you've. I guess the only way that we can change in this is to actually take action and make tangible.
Celebrate these moments.
Whether that's monthly, quarterly, weekly, whatever that is, even if it's just buy yourself a drink, or it doesn't have to be a big grand gesture, does it? It's just a point of saying
enough to just recognize these moments, just to sit down and recognize these moments. Yeah. I think from next year.
Should we get some sticker? Should we get a sticker book that says
from next year? Yeah,
we'll start giving each other a well done sticker.
From next year, we're going to do this. Let's make it a point to let's make it our goal to recognize these steps along the way.
Talk marginal gains. If I'm 1% better than I was this time last week, that's a success.
Perfect. That's exactly. I totally agree with that. My biggest fear is waking up 2 days in a row and being the same person. If I haven't improved by a little, I have failed.
So final thoughts on that then. We just talked about marginal gains and 1% better.
Yeah.
What would you say it takes to even just be that 1% better every week? What do you need as a characteristic?
Want and persistence must be a priority in your life.
So what you're saying is with want and persistence,
you've got to want it and you have to be persistent.
And by doing that, you're going to be marginally better week in, week out.
Every single week, yes. And that's how you gradually walk yourself to success. And remember, that's 360 degrees. It's not just one thing. All your life has to be included in that. Family, business, friends, kids, Taylor over there. Don't forget to include me when you're doing yours.
I think that's a good close.